Many people, they avoid disagreeing at work. They stay silent even when they have a better idea. Others disagree directly and sound rude. So in this video, you will learn how to disagree professionally using calm, respectful English that protects relationships at work. Let's begin. So the first question that comes to our mind is why disagreeing is important. So you have to understand that disagreeing does not mean arguing, because at work healthy disagreement improves decisions. Okay, but your words matter. So that's the important thing that you have to understand. Your words really do matter. Okay, if you sound aggressive, people get defensive. If you sound unsure, people ignore you. Okay, and professional English, it helps you disagree calmly and clearly. So that's what we are gonna learn today in this video. And let's quickly hop on to our first phrase, which is about soften before disagreeing. So what does that mean? Basically, you never start directly with disagreement. Okay, if you are in the middle of any conversation, you just have to make sure that even if you want to disagree, don't start with it directly. So instead of saying I don't agree, okay, which is how most of the peoples out there start their disagreement, right? But you don't have to say I don't agree. Instead, start with a soft phrase, and you could say I understand your point, but, or you could say your point is valid. However, right? So these are the phrases that you can use to show your disagreement politely. Let's see some example. I understand your point, but there may be another way. So basically, using this phrase shows respect first. Okay, so let's move ahead with our next phrase, and this is about expressing a different view. Okay, so at times you would obviously have a different view, right, from others, and it's okay to show it. It's okay to discuss and put it ahead, right? But there's a way of doing this. Okay, so instead of rejecting an idea, present another perspective. Okay, don't just reject the idea. Okay, reject somebody's idea, right? Instead, as I mentioned, you have to present another perspective to that idea. Okay, how can you do that? So basically, what you have to use is I see it a little differently, or from another perspective. So you could say something like, from another perspective, this may cause delays, right? So you can disagree or express some other opinion using these phrases, and it basically reduces tension also. Okay, so this is one good example here that you can use. It says from another perspective, this may cause delays, right? That is how you show your disagreement to an idea. So with this, let's move ahead to our next phrase, which is about disagreeing with data. Okay, so it's pretty important to understand. Okay, what happens is facts make disagreement easier, right? So if you want to disagree with somebody, okay, and to cut them off in a polite way, it's always better if you have some data to back you up. Okay, so what you should not be using is emotional statements, right? Or getting emotional about something, some idea that you simply do not want somebody to go ahead with something. Okay, that should not happen. You should be able to express your opinion, your perspective first, and you should be able to back it up with some data, right? Or you basically it's about using data based language, right? So how you can do that? You could say something like that. Okay, you could say based on the data that we have. So that is how you can start your argument. start your opinion based on the data that we have. So let's see some example. Based on the data that we have, this may not be effective. Okay. So this basically makes you sound professional, right? Because professional disagreement sounds objective and not personal or emotional. So it's a very good skill that you have to develop, okay? Always try to back your arguments up with data and use phrases like based on the data that we have, this may not be effective. Okay? With this, let's move ahead to our next phrase, which is about disagreeing with seniors. Of course. So it's one of the most important aspects or skill that you have to develop, okay? Because everybody works in an environment where they have seniors, they have juniors with them, okay? And not always will you be agreeing with your seniors' perspective on something. So there you should be able to counter them, but with respect and politeness. Because when speaking to seniors, your tone matters even more, isn't it? So what you should not be saying is, this won't work. So that's rude, right? That sounds rude, being a junior. Okay. What instead can be done is, you should say, I may be mistaken, but, or you could say, one concern I have is. Okay, so that's how you can start your phrases. You can start your sentences. Because that shows humility, right? And that shows respect. Moving ahead, our next phrase is about ending things positively or ending conversations positively. Okay, you should always remember that it's the most important mantra. Okay, even if you have disagreements with somebody on in any conversation, okay, or any discussion, you should ensure that your disagreements end positively. Okay, you could say, even if you guys are not agreeing, right? You don't agree with somebody's perspective, you could say something like open to your thoughts on this or happy to discuss this further. So what impression does it give out is this keeps communication open and professional. Okay, so it tells the counterpart that you're not getting emotional about it or you're not going personal, right? It's just that you guys have a different perspective on something and you are still happy to discuss about it later also, okay, after the conversation, right? So always end your discussions or arguments positively. So with this, we are on the quick practice section. Okay, let's have a quick recall. And as I always say, pause after each one. Okay, just read it, absorb it, and proceed. So whenever you want to say I don't agree, you should be saying I understand your point, but if you want to say this won't work, you could say one concern that I have is, okay, and to end some fight or argument, you could simply say happy to discuss this further. So this is disagreement, okay, but this is professional disagreement, right? And I'll repeat this again, guys. Disagreeing is normal. This happens all the time, okay? But your tone decides whether it is going to become a conflict or not, okay? Always remember that professional English, it protects respect of yours as well as your counterpart, okay? So with this, we come to the end of the video. If this video was helpful, you can subscribe to our channel. In the next video, we'll learn how to ask questions confidently in meetings. Thank you.